Part 1. The discovery Marcus Chen wiped the sweat from his forehead as he stared at the strange readings on his mining ship's scanner. The numbers didn't make sense. His old vessel, the Rust Bucket, had been crawling through the asteroid belt for 3 weeks without finding anything worth mining. But now, the energy detector was going crazy. "What the hell?" Marcus muttered, tapping the screen with his finger. The device showed massive energy signatures coming from a small planetoid ahead. It looked dead from the outside. Just gray, rock floating in space like 1,000 others he'd seen. Marcus had been mining asteroids for 15 years, just like his father and grandfather before him. It was hard, lonely work, but it paid the bills. Most days, he found nothing. Some days, he found a little iron or nickel. But energy readings like this? Never. He guided his ship closer to the planetoid. It was about the size of a small moon, covered in craters and dust. Nothing special to look at. But his scanner kept beeping louder and louder. "Okay, let's see what you're hiding," Marcus said to himself. He put on his mining suit and checked his tools. The drill was old, but reliable. The scanner showed the energy was coming from deep underground. Marcus had to dig down about 50 meters to reach it. The planetoid's surface was harder than expected. His drill worked for hours, grinding through rock and metal. Sparks flew as the drill bit heated up. Marcus had to stop several times to let it cool down. Finally, after 6 hours of drilling, something changed. The drill suddenly broke through, into empty space. Marcus felt the tool drop down into what seemed like a huge underground cave. "That's weird," he said, pulling the drill back up. He'd never seen anything like this before. Marcus lowered a camera on a cable to see what was down. There. The screen showed complete darkness at first. Then he turned on the camera's lights. What he saw made him gasp. The cave was enormous, bigger than a football stadium. The walls were covered with crystals that glowed with soft blue and green light. They pulsed slowly, like a giant heartbeat. The crystals were beautiful, unlike anything Marcus had ever seen. "Holy shit," he whispered. "These crystals could be worth millions, maybe billions." Marcus quickly set up his mining equipment. He lowered himself down into the cave on a cable. When his feet touched the ground, he felt a strange tingling sensation through his boots. The cave was even more amazing up close. The crystals covered every surface. Walls, ceiling, floor. They were all connected, like branches of a giant tree made of light. The air was warm and smelled like flowers. Marcus pulled out his sample collector and approached the nearest crystal formation. As he got closer, the crystals glowed brighter. When he touched one with his gloved hand, it pulsed with warm light. "Incredible," he said, taking pictures with his helmet camera. "I've never seen anything like this." He was about to take a sample when he heard a sound behind him. A deep, rumbling noise like distant thunder. Marcus turned around and froze. Something huge was moving in the shadows at the far end of the cave. Something alive. A creature stepped into the crystal light. It was tall, at least 3 meters high, with a body like a giant insect. It had 6 legs, 4 arms, and a head with large, multifaceted eyes that sparkled like jewels. Its skin looked like it was made of the same material as the crystals. Marcus couldn't move. He couldn't even breathe. The creature was looking right at him. Then more creatures appeared. Dozens of them, all similar but different sizes. They moved gracefully, their crystal-like skin catching the light. They formed a circle around Marcus, but they didn't seem hostile. They seemed curious. The largest creature stepped forward. When it spoke, Marcus heard the words in his head rather than through his ears. "Welcome, stone speaker," the voice said. It was deep and ancient, like the sound of wind through caves. "We have waited so long for you to come." "Stone speaker," Marcus managed to say. "I think you've got the wrong guy. I'm just a miner." The creature tilted its head. "You awakened the sleeping stones. You made them sing again. Only the chosen one can do this. Marcus looked around at the crystals. They were indeed glowing brighter than before, pulsing in rhythm with his heartbeat. I didn't do anything special. I just touched them. For many cycles, our crystals have been dying, the creature explained. The plague turns them dark and cold. Our people grow weak and sick. Our children cannot be born. Soon, we will all be gone. Other creatures moved closer. Marcus could see that some of the crystals on the walls were indeed dark and lifeless. Black veins ran through them like infection. Our queen performed the ancient ritual, the creature continued. Whoever could awaken the sleeping stones would be marked as our new ruler. You are that one, stone speaker. Ruler? Marcus backed away. No, I'm nobody special. I just drill rocks for a living. But as he spoke, Marcus noticed something strange happening to his hands. Even through his gloves, he could see glowing symbols appearing on his skin. They looked like the patterns in the crystals around him. The creatures all bowed their heads. You bear the mark of leadership. You are our emperor now. Marcus stared at his glowing hands in shock. This couldn't be happening. He was just Marcus Chen, third-generation asteroid miner. He lived alone in a tiny apartment on Ceres Station. He ate instant noodles for dinner and watched old movies to fall asleep. Look, there's been a mistake, he said, but his voice sounded weak even to himself. The largest creature, who Marcus realized must be some kind of leader, gestured to the dying crystals. Without your help, we will be extinct in less than one of your months. You are our only hope, Stone Speaker. Marcus looked around the cave again. There had to be thousands of these creatures living down here, an entire civilization hidden inside, this dead-looking planetoid, and somehow, by accident, he'd become their ruler. I don't know anything about being an emperor, he said. You know the stones, the creature replied. That is enough. Will you help us live? Marcus touched one of the healthy crystals again. It pulsed with warm light, and he felt a strange connection to it, like it was alive and trying to communicate with him. Maybe he didn't understand what was happening. Maybe this was all crazy, but these creatures were dying, and somehow he might be able to help them. Okay, Marcus said quietly. I'll try. The crystals throughout the cave suddenly blazed with brilliant light, and all the creatures made a sound, like singing. Marcus Chen, ordinary asteroid miner, had just accepted the crown of an alien empire. He had no idea what he'd gotten himself into. Part 2. Reluctant Recognition. Marcus spent his first night in the crystal cave wide awake, staring at the glowing symbols on his hands. The alien creatures, who called themselves the Cathara, had given him a place to rest, but sleep was impossible. Everything felt like a crazy dream. The largest Cathara, who introduced himself as Elder Zix, sat nearby. His crystal-like skin flickered with soft colors as he spoke. Tell me about this plague, Marcus said, trying to focus on something he might actually help with. Elder Zix gestured to a section of the cave where the crystals were black and dead. It started 50 cycles ago. One by one, our life crystals began to die. We tried everything our ancestors taught us, but nothing worked. Marcus walked over to examine the infected crystals. They felt cold and brittle, completely different from the warm, living ones. Black veins spread through them like cracks in glass. What exactly do these crystals do? Marcus asked. They are everything to us, Zix explained. They give us light, warmth, food, air to breathe. Our children are born from them. Without healthy crystals, we cannot survive. Marcus nodded. It reminded him of how humans needed plants for oxygen, except these crystals seemed to do everything. And your people have always been able to communicate with them? Yes, but only a little. We sing to them, and they respond. But you, Stone Speaker, when you touch them, They come alive in ways we have never seen. Marcus touched one of the healthy crystals again. Immediately, it pulsed brighter, and he felt a strange sensation, like the crystal was trying to tell him something. It wasn't words, but more like feelings and images. That's weird, Marcus muttered. It's like it's showing me what's wrong with the sick ones. Over the next few hours, Zix showed Marcus around their underground city. It was incredible. Thousands of Cathara lived in chambers carved from crystal. Their homes, their tools, even their art, everything was grown from the living crystal formations. But Marcus could see the problem everywhere. Dark, dead patches spread through the city like a disease. Whole sections had been abandoned as the crystals died. The Cathara looked weak and tired. Many of them were sick. "How many of your people are left?" Marcus asked. "Perhaps 10,000, Zix said sadly. "We were once 50,000 strong. If the plague continues, we will all be gone before the next." Warm season. Marcus felt a heavy weight on his shoulders. These weren't just alien creatures, they were an entire civilization depending on him. A guy who barely passed high school and whose biggest achievement was finding a decent iron asteroid last year. "I need to understand how this plague spreads," Marcus said. "Can you show me where it started?" Zix led him to the deepest part of the city, near the planet's core. Here, the crystal formations were massive, some as big as skyscrapers, but many of them were completely black and dead. "It began here," Zix explained, "in our most sacred chamber, the heart of the world." They entered an enormous cavern with a crystal formation in the center that must have been beautiful once. Now, it was mostly black, with only a few spots of dim light still flickering. Marcus approached the giant crystal and placed his hand on it. The moment he touched it, images flooded his mind. He saw the crystal when it was healthy, pulsing with life. Then he saw something else. Machines drilling, explosions, the crystal cracking and bleeding darkness. "Someone was mining here," Marcus said, pulling his hand back. "I can see it. Big machines, industrial equipment. They drilled right into the heart of your crystal network." Zix's eyes widened. "Mining? You mean your people did this?" Marcus felt sick to his stomach. "Maybe. I don't know who, but someone was here decades ago. They damaged the core crystal, and that's what started the plague." He examined the crystal more carefully with his mining knowledge. The damage patterns were familiar. He'd seen similar destruction on asteroids that had been strip-mined too aggressively. Marcus spent the next 2 days working with the crystals, trying different approaches. Unlike the Cathara, who treated the crystals like sacred beings to be sung to and prayed over, Marcus approached them like any other mineral formation. He used his geological scanner to map the crystal network. He tested different frequencies with his mining equipment. He even tried some basic chemistry to understand what the crystals were made of. The results amazed everyone, including Marcus himself. When he used his mining drill on a very low setting, he could cut away the infected parts of crystals without damaging the healthy sections. When he played certain sound frequencies through his equipment, the crystals grew faster and stronger. His simple, practical approach worked better than centuries of Cathara crystal singing. "This is impossible," whispered Cathara priestess named Vara, watching Marcus heal a crystal that had been dead for years. "The sacred stones do not respond to such crude methods." "Maybe they're not as sacred as you think," Marcus said, immediately regretting his words when he saw the shocked faces around him. "I mean, maybe they're just different, like very advanced plants or something." Elder Zix studied the newly healed crystal with wonder. "In 3 days, you have restored more crystals than our healers managed in 3 years. How is this possible?" Marcus shrugged. "I treat them like I treat any mineral formation. I look for patterns, test different approaches, see what works. I don't worry about doing it the right way, I just focus on getting results. but their progress was interrupted by an emergency. A Cathara scout rushed into the chamber, speaking rapidly in their clicking language. "What's wrong?" Marcus asked. Zix looked worried. "Ships have appeared above our world. Your people are coming." Marcus felt his heart sink. He activated his communication device and heard a familiar voice on the corporate frequency. "Marcus Chen, this is Supervisor Webb. You missed your last 3 check-ins. We're tracking your signal to that planetoid. What's your status?" Marcus recognized Janet Webb's voice immediately. She was his supervisor at the mining company, ambitious, ruthless, and always looking for ways to advance her career at others' expense. "Shit," Marcus whispered. If Webb found the Cathara and there, Crystal City, she'd see nothing but profit. She'd strip mine the entire planetoid without caring about the people living inside it. "Stone Speaker?" Zix asked. "Are these your allies?" Marcus looked at the elder's trusting face, then at the thousands of Cathara who were depending on him. He thought about Webb's greed and the company's policies. He knew exactly what would happen if corporate interests got involved. "No," Marcus said firmly. "They are not my allies, and I won't let them hurt your people." He turned off his communicator and made a decision that would change everything. Marcus Chen, reluctant emperor of a dying alien race, was about to declare, "War on his own species. Zix, we need to hide your people," Marcus said. "And we need to do it fast." Part 3. The Human Touch Marcus had 12 hours before Janet Webb's corporate fleet would arrive. 12 hours to hide an entire alien civilization. "We need to make this place look completely dead," Marcus told Elder Zix. "No lights, no energy. Signatures, nothing that looks valuable." Zix looked confused. "But the crystals must continue to glow, or our people will die." "Then we go deeper," Marcus said, studying the cave system on his scanner. "Way deeper. Move everyone to the lower levels and seal off the upper chambers." The Cathara had never organized a mass evacuation before. They moved slowly, carrying their most precious crystals, and singing farewell songs to the chambers they were leaving behind. Marcus watched them with growing frustration. "We don't have time for ceremonies. Just grab what you need and go." Stone Speaker, Vara, the priestess, said coldly. "These are sacred rituals. We cannot simply abandon our traditions." "Your traditions won't matter if you're all dead," Marcus snapped back. He realized he needed to think differently. These weren't human miners who could follow orders quickly. These were an ancient people with their own way of doing things. Marcus took a deep breath and tried again. "Elder Zix, can you organize your people into groups, like families or districts?" "Yes, we have clan groups," Zix replied. "Good. Give each clan leader a specific job. Some groups move the children and elderly first. Others handle the crystal gardens. Others seal the upper tunnels." This approach worked much better. The Cathara understood group responsibilities. Within hours, they had moved thousands of people to the deeper caves. But Marcus faced another problem. The dying crystals were scattered throughout the upper levels. If Webb's people scanned the planetoid, they'd detect the dead crystal formations and know something had been living here. "I need to clean this up," Marcus muttered, looking at the infected crystals. "Clean what up?" Zix asked. Marcus pulled out his mining equipment. "These dead crystals are evidence that someone lived here. I need to remove them completely. The Cathara were horrified. "You cannot destroy the sacred stones. Even dead ones must be honored." "Would you rather honor dead stones or save living people?" Marcus asked. It was a harsh question, but it worked. The Cathara reluctantly agreed to let Marcus remove the infected crystal formations. Marcus worked like a man possessed. He used his mining drill to cut away dead crystals and his explosives to collapse tunnels that led to obvious living areas. He even used his ship's mining laser to smooth over cave walls, making them look like natural rock formations. But his biggest challenge was the crystal network itself. The healthy crystals were still connected underground, still pulsing with life. Even hidden in the deep caves, They gave off energy signatures that Webb's advanced scanners would detect. Marcus had an idea that made him feel sick to his stomach. "I need to temporarily shut down your crystal network," he told Zix. "That is impossible," Zix said. "Without the crystals, we will die in days." "Not shut down completely," Marcus explained. "Just put them to sleep. Make them go dormant until the corporate people leave." He'd seen something similar with certain mineral formations on dead worlds. Sometimes crystals would go inactive during environmental stress, then reactivate when conditions improved. Marcus spent hours working with the main crystal hub in the deep caves, using his equipment to gradually reduce the crystal's energy output. It was like slowly turning down a dimmer switch. The effect on the Kythera was immediate. They became weak and tired. Some collapsed. Children started crying as the cave grew darker and colder. "Stone Speaker," Zix gasped. "Our people are suffering." "I know," Marcus said, hating himself for causing their pain. "But it's only temporary, I promise." Just as Marcus finished shutting down the last crystal network, his communicator crackled to life. "Marcus, this is Webb. We're approaching your position. I'm reading some interesting energy signatures from that rock. What have you found down there?" Marcus climbed back to the upper caves, which now looked completely dead and empty. He activated his communicator. "Just some unusual mineral formations," he lied. "Nothing valuable. My equipment malfunctioned and gave false readings." Webb's voice sounded suspicious. "We're coming aboard your ship for a full inspection. Have your samples ready." An hour later, Webb arrived with a team of corporate security officers and mining specialists. She was a tall, sharp-faced woman in an expensive mining suit. "Marcus," she said without warmth, "you've been out here for weeks without reporting. That's a violation of company policy." "My communications array was damaged," Marcus said. "I've been working on repairs." Webb looked around the upper cave that Marcus had hastily cleared. Her specialists ran scans on the walls and remaining crystal formations. "These readings are strange," one specialist reported. "High mineral content, but mostly worthless quartz and silicate compounds." Marcus held his breath. His plan was working, but Webb wasn't satisfied. "What about these energy readings we detected from orbit?" "Magnetic field fluctuations," Marcus said quickly. "The planetoid has an unusual iron core. Creates electromagnetic interference." Webb studied him carefully. "You look different, Marcus. What happened to your hands?" Marcus looked down. The glowing symbols were still visible on his skin, though much fainter now that the crystals were dormant. "Chemical burns from acidic mineral exposure," he lied. "I should see a doctor when I get back to base." One of Webb's security officers whispered something in her ear. She nodded and turned back to Marcus. "We're claiming salvage rights to this planetoid," she announced. "Standard corporate procedure. You'll get a small finder's fee." Marcus felt anger rise in his chest. "You can't do that. I was here first." "Read your employment contract," Webb said coldly. "All discoveries made using company equipment belong to the company. We'll start mining operations here next month." After Webb's team left, Marcus rushed back to the deep caves. The Kythera were barely alive. Their skin had turned gray, and many had fallen unconscious. "I'm sorry," Marcus said to Zix, who was struggling to stay awake. "I'm going to bring the crystals back online now." Marcus worked quickly to reactivate the crystal network. As the caves filled with warm light again, the Kythera began to recover. "Stone Speaker," Zix said weakly. "What will happen when your people return?" Marcus looked at the thousands of Kythera families huddled in the caves. Children, elderly, sick people who depended on the crystals to survive. In 1 month, Webb would arrive with mining equipment and destroy everything. "I won't let that happen," Marcus said firmly. "Webb thinks she can steal your home, but she doesn't know who she's dealing with." For the first time since becoming their emperor, Marcus felt truly angry. Not just frustrated or overwhelmed, but furious. These corporate vultures had probably caused the crystal plague in the first place, and now they wanted to finish the job. Marcus Chen, ordinary asteroid miner, was about to take on one of the biggest mining corporations in human space. And he was going to win, Zix, Marcus said. I need to learn everything about your technology. Everything. We're going to war. Part 4. The corporate war 1 month later, Webb returned with a full mining fleet. Marcus watched from deep underground as 12 massive ships surrounded the planetoid. Mining vessels, security cruisers, and a command ship that looked like a floating city. They brought an army, Marcus said grimly, studying the scanner readings. Elder Zix stood beside him, along with the other Cathara leaders. Over the past month, Marcus had learned incredible things about their technology. The crystals weren't just energy sources. They were living computers, communication networks, and manufacturing systems all in one. Are you ready? Marcus asked. Zix nodded. Our people are in position. But Stonespeaker, are you certain this will work? Marcus looked at his hands, where the glowing symbols had grown brighter and more complex. He could now communicate with every crystal in the planetoid simultaneously. It was like having a direct connection to a planet-sized supercomputer. It has to work, Marcus said. Webb's voice came over the communication system. This is Supervisor. Webb to all personnel on planetoid KX-7. You are trespassing on corporate property. Evacuate immediately or face arrest. Marcus activated his communicator. Webb, this is Marcus. You need to leave. Now. Webb's laugh was cold. Marcus, you're fired. Security teams are already on their way down to arrest you for theft of company property. Marcus looked at the scanner. Armed security teams in full combat armor were descending toward the planetoid surface. They had plasma rifles, explosives, and heavy mining equipment. Zix, begin Phase 1, Marcus said. Throughout the underground city, the Cathara activated systems that Marcus had helped them redesign. Instead of using their crystals for traditional purposes, they'd turned them into defensive weapons. The first security team landed near Marcus's original drill site. As soon as their boots touched the ground, the crystals beneath the surface began to resonate. The sound was inaudible to humans, but it made their equipment malfunction. Command, this is Team Alpha, came a panicked voice over the radio. Our weapons aren't working. Repeat, all electronic systems are failing. Marcus smiled. The crystals were generating electromagnetic pulses that fried any advanced technology. The security teams were left with broken equipment on a hostile planetoid. But Webb wasn't stupid. She'd brought backup systems. Switch to mechanical weapons, Webb ordered her teams. And bring down the heavy mining equipment. We'll blast our way through whatever's causing the interference. Large mining mechs landed on the surface. These were massive robots designed to tear apart asteroids. They didn't rely on sensitive electronics. So the crystal interference didn't affect them. Phase 2, Marcus told Zix. This time, the planetoid itself fought back. Marcus had learned to communicate with the crystal network like it was his own nervous system. He could feel every vibration, every movement on the surface. When the mining mechs started drilling, Marcus triggered controlled collapses, tunnels, that he'd secretly prepared over the past month suddenly opened up, swallowing the heavy equipment. Mining mechs fell into deep pits that Marcus had carved using the crystal network's power. What the hell is happening down there? Webb shouted over the radio. But Marcus's real surprise was just beginning. He'd spent weeks studying the old mining records, trying to figure out who had originally damaged the Cathara's crystal heart. He'd found the answer in Webb's own company files. Webb, Marcus said over the open communication channel. I have something interesting to show you. Marcus activated a data transmission, sending files directly to every ship in Webb's fleet. The files showed mining operations from 50 years ago. Illegal strip mining that had violated multiple environmental protection laws. The files proved that Webb's own company had caused the crystal plague. They drilled into the planetoid's core without proper permits, damaged the crystal network, and then covered up the evidence when the legal liability became too dangerous. "This is fabricated data," Webb said, but her voice sounded nervous. "The geological surveys don't lie," Marcus replied. "Your company destroyed an entire ecosystem and tried to hide it. Now you want to finish the job." Marcus heard arguments breaking out among Webb's crew. Some of the miners didn't want to be part of what was clearly an illegal operation. Several ships actually broke away from the fleet and jumped to hyperspace. But Webb wasn't giving up. She sent down her remaining security teams with orders to capture Marcus at any cost. "If I can't mine this rock legally, I'll blow it up and sort through the pieces," Webb transmitted. "Prepare the nuclear charges." Marcus felt cold fear run through him. Nuclear explosives would destroy the entire planetoid and everyone on it. "Zix, we need to go to Phase 3, Marcus said. "The dangerous one." Zix looked worried. "Stone Speaker, we've never tried anything like this before. It could kill you." "It'll definitely kill all of us if I don't try," Marcus replied. Marcus made his way to the planetoid's core, where the great crystal heart still showed scars from the old mining damage. But over the past month, working together, Marcus and the Kithara had begun to heal it. Marcus placed both hands on the massive crystal and opened his mind completely to the network. He felt his consciousness expand throughout the entire planetoid. He could sense every crystal, every cave, every living Kithara. He could also sense Webb's ships surrounding them like predators. Marcus had learned that the crystal network wasn't just confined to the planetoid. There were connections to other crystal formations throughout the asteroid belt, a vast network that had been built over millions of years. If he could activate that network, Marcus pushed his awareness beyond the planetoid, following crystal connections through space. He found dormant crystal formations on dozens of asteroids, all linked by quantum entanglement that he barely understood but could somehow use. Suddenly, every piece of crystal-containing rock in the asteroid belt began to glow. Webb's ships found themselves surrounded by hundreds of glowing asteroids, all pulsing with the same rhythm as Marcus's heartbeat. The asteroids began to move, guided by the crystal network's power. "This is impossible," Webb said, her voice filled with panic. "Rocks don't move by themselves." But they did move. The asteroid belt itself was fighting back, directed by Marcus's will and the Kithara's ancient technology. Asteroids formed a protective barrier around the planetoid. When Webb's ships tried to launch nuclear weapons, the asteroids intercepted them. When the ships tried to escape, more asteroids blocked their path. Marcus felt like he was controlling a body the size of a solar system. The strain was enormous, but he held on. "Webb," Marcus said, his voice now broadcasting from every crystal in the belt, "you have one choice. Leave now and take your company's crimes with you, or stay here and face justice." Several of Webb's ships were already trying to surrender. Their crews had realized they were part of an illegal operation that could land them in prison for life. But Webb herself made one last desperate move. She activated her command ship's self-destruct sequence, trying to take Marcus and the planetoid with her. Marcus felt the nuclear explosion building in Webb's ship. He had seconds to save everyone. Drawing on power from crystals across the entire asteroid belt, Marcus created a shield of pure energy around the planetoid. The explosion hit the shield and dispersed harmlessly into space. When the light faded, Webb's command ship was gone. The remaining corporate vessels were fleeing as fast as their engines could carry them. Marcus collapsed, his consciousness snapping back to his own body. He was bleeding from his nose and ears, and his hands were burned from channeling so much power, but they'd won. The corporate invasion was over. "Stone Speaker," Zix said, helping Marcus to his feet. "You saved us all." Marcus looked around at the thousands of Kithara who had gathered in the core chamber. They were safe. Their home was safe. But Marcus knew this was just the beginning. Word would spread about what had happened here, about a human who could control crystals and command asteroids. Everything was about to change. Part 5. The New Symbiosis. 3 months after the battle, Marcus stood in what used to be the dying crystal heart of the planetoid. Now it pulsed with brilliant life, completely healed and stronger than ever. The chamber had become his throne room, though he rarely sat on the crystal chair the Kithara had grown for him. "The human delegation has arrived," Elder Zix announced, his crystal skin flickering with nervous colors. Marcus nodded. He'd been expecting this visit. After Webb's defeat, news had spread quickly through human space. A miner who could control asteroids, an alien civilization with incredible technology, and a corporate scandal that had destroyed one of the biggest mining companies in the galaxy. "Send them in," Marcus said. A group of 5 humans entered the chamber. Marcus recognized Admiral Sarah Chen from the human colonial navy, no relation despite the shared name. There was also Dr. Elena Rodriguez from the Xenobiology Institute, Minister James Park from the colonial government, and 2 others Marcus didn't know. "Mr. Chen," Admiral Chen said formally, "we need to talk." "I figured you'd show up eventually," Marcus replied. "What do you want?" Dr. Rodriguez stepped forward. "We want to understand what happened here. Our scientists detected energy readings from this system that shouldn't be possible. Asteroids moving in coordinated patterns, crystals, generating power levels that exceed our best fusion reactors. And we want to know where your loyalties lie," Minister Park added coldly. "You're still a human citizen, but you're ruling an alien empire. That creates complications." Marcus had been preparing for this conversation for months. He'd known that humanity wouldn't ignore what had happened here. "My loyalties are simple," Marcus said. "I'm loyal to people who need help. Human or alien, it doesn't matter. But you used military-level force against human ships," Admiral Chen pointed out. "Webb's fleet was completely destroyed. Hundreds of people died." "Webb was committing genocide," Marcus replied firmly. "She was going to wipe out an entire species for profit. I stopped her." He gestured to the crystal walls around them. "Do you see this place? This is a living city. The Kithara have been here for millions of years. They never hurt anyone. They never even left their planetoid. Webb wanted to murder them all for their crystals." Dr. Rodriguez was studying the crystal formations with obvious fascination. "The technology here is incredible. These crystals are processing information at quantum levels. They're basically organic computers that can manipulate matter and energy, which is why we need to establish formal relations," Minister Park said. "The colonial government is prepared to offer a treaty, trade agreements, technology sharing, mutual defense." Marcus laughed bitterly. "You mean you want to exploit them just like Webb did, just with paperwork this time?" "We want to coexist peacefully," Admiral Chen insisted. "But we also can't ignore the military implications. You controlled hundreds of asteroids simultaneously. That's a weapon system more powerful than anything in human space." Marcus looked at his hands, where the crystal symbols now covered his, arms up to his elbows. Over the months, his connection to the crystal network had grown stronger. He could feel every crystal formation in the asteroid belt, could communicate with Kithara across vast distances instantly. "It's not a weapon," Marcus said quietly. "It's a responsibility." Elder Zix approached the group. "Stone Speaker, should I show them?" Marcus nodded. "Show them everything." Over the next several hours, Zix led the human delegation through the underground city. They saw Kithara children playing in crystal gardens that grew food and generated breathable air. They watched artists sculpt with living crystal that responded to thought and emotion. They visited workshops where Kithara engineers grew tools and machines from crystal seeds, but Marcus also showed them the memorial chambers, vast halls filled with dark crystal formations that represented the thousands of Kithara who had died. From the plague caused by human mining operations decades ago. Your people did this, Marcus told the delegation. Not intentionally, maybe, but human greed and carelessness destroyed an ancient civilization. I won't let it happen again. Dr. Rodriguez was taking notes on everything. The applications are limitless. Medical technology, environmental restoration, space travel. These crystals could revolutionize human civilization. If we work together, Marcus said. Not if you try to take what you want by force. Minister Park frowned. What exactly are you proposing? Marcus had spent months thinking about this moment. He'd discussed it with Zix and the other Kithara leaders. They'd all agreed on the approach. I'm proposing something new, Marcus said. Not human expansion or alien isolation. True partnership. He led them to another chamber where several Kithara were working with human volunteers, miners and engineers who had deserted Webb's fleet and asked to stay. Together, they were developing new technologies that combined human industrial knowledge with Kithara crystal mastery. These people are learning to grow tools instead of manufacturing them, Marcus explained. And the Kithara are learning human engineering principles. We're creating something neither species could achieve alone. Admiral Chen looked skeptical. And you're in charge of all this? I'm a bridge, Marcus said. I can communicate with both sides. I understand human thinking and Kithara wisdom, but I'm not interested in building an empire or conquering anyone. Marcus walked over to a large crystal display that showed a map of local space. Dozens of systems were highlighted in different colors. The crystal network extends further than we thought, Marcus explained. There are dormant formations in 17 different star systems. Not all of them have Kithara populations, but they're all connected. Dr. Rodriguez gasped. That's an instantaneous communication network across hundreds of light years. Exactly, Marcus said. Imagine human colonies that could communicate instantly with Earth. Ships that could navigate through space using crystal guidance systems. Planets where crystal technology could repair environmental damage and create sustainable ecosystems. Minister Park looked interested for the first time. What would you want in return? Respect, Marcus said simply. Recognition that the Kithara are equal partners, not resources to be exploited. Legal protection for crystal formations and any other alien species we encounter. And accountability for past crimes. That last part might be difficult, Admiral Chen said. The company responsible for the original damage is already bankrupt and disbanded. Then humanity takes responsibility, Marcus replied. You help us heal the damage that was done. You prove that humans can be better than Webb and her corporate vultures. The negotiations took 3 days. In the end, they reached an agreement that Marcus hoped would change everything. The Kithara Accords established the first truly equal partnership between humans and an alien species. The crystal formations would be protected by joint human-Kithara law. Technology would be shared, freely, but never taken by force. Any human colonies that wanted to use crystal technology would have to accept Kithara observers to ensure the crystals were treated properly. Most importantly, Marcus would remain as the official ambassador between species, not quite human anymore, not quite Kithara, but something new. Do you think this will work? Zix asked Marcus after the human delegation had left. Marcus looked out at the thriving Crystal City, where human engineers were working alongside Kithara artists to create wonders neither species had imagined alone. I think it's a start, Marcus said. For the first time in history, humans aren't just taking what they want from space. We're learning to give something back. Marcus Chen had started as an ordinary asteroid miner looking for a quick profit. He'd ended up as something unprecedented. The first human to truly understand that the universe was big enough for everyone to thrive together. The crystals around him pulsed with warm light, and Marcus felt the presence of millions of Kithara across the star systems, all connected, all working toward a future where cooperation mattered more than conquest. It was, he thought, a pretty good day's work for a guy who used to eat instant noodles for dinner.